Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Unsecurity Podcast, episode number 192 today. Joined, as always, by the wonderful Brad Nye. Hey, Brad, how's it going today?
It's cold and snowy.
Yeah.
So, it's Minnesota.
Yeah, I think that it's finally feeling like fall and moving into winter down here. It's cold, rainy today. Miserable, dreary day out there.
I'd rather, if it's going to be cold, I'd rather have the snow than the rain. Like, drop down to like 29, getting some snow.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The rain sucks.
Yeah, it just like mucks everything up. It just turns into like a muddy, sloppy mess. And then at night, whenever, it gets down to the 20s and the teens, all that rain freezes. And so we get ice everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'd rather just have the snow, man.
So,
so been a bit since we've been able to chat. Brad, what's been going on, man?
We've just been so crazy busy. It's, life happens. We've had a whole bunch of new, everybody's finally catching up to some of the stuff that we put together, 3+ years ago around, some of the vendor risk management stuff. And they're like, oh, yeah, we can do this. And now everybody's
Let's talk about that.
Now.
Yeah, that's something like we pride ourselves on, is trying to stay ahead of the curve, right? And and that's something that you developed, right? I think you did a lot of work on this like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I looked it up because I needed to update the document. It was last updated October of 19, so just over 3 years, right about 3 years ago. It's like,
yeah, and so to unpack that, we're talking about a vendor risk management program that Brad had designed 3 years ago, and we were forecasting this was going to be in demand. And so maybe tell everybody what's happening now.
Yeah, so the big driver really, what came from this is the Department of Labor came out with guidance last December of 21. It said by December of 2022, all these unions and third-party administrators need to have a vendor risk management program active in place. You need to be doing something to do it. And honestly, the Department of Labor requirements are really good. I was impressed with what they're requiring and what they want you to look for. It's not just, a bid site or a security scorecard. That's not going to qualify to satisfy their requirements. So now you have all these unions going and law firms and third-party administrators that work with them. But what do we do? And so we put together where we take, the majority of the work off of their plate. They need to give us a list of their vendors, and we'll go through and get questionnaires out and make a recommendation for them on what risk action to take. And then they need to go in and actually click the button. It is their risk. They can override our recommendation, but just really try to
tell us a little bit too about like, what are those controls that we're reviewing, like when we engage the vendors? Like, what are some of the things we're looking for our vendors to prove?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that are required by the Department of Labor, but really it's our level 1 risk assessment satisfies it, where we're looking for policies, procedures. Do they have a DR plan? Do they have an IR plan? Do they provide training and awareness? Do they have a named individual for security? So it really lays out the fundamentals that you would want to see. The big differences are from our approach. The kind of the modifications we needed to make is they want you to have proof that the vendor has cyber insurance, that it's adequate. So, if just a big company that's, not to pick on anyone, but just like a Blue Cross Blue Shield, right? That's somebody, everybody knows them. If you were to look at their insurance and they had $50,000 in cyber insurance, you're probably going to go, well, that doesn't seem adequate, right? Versus maybe a smaller local vendor that is, that would be adequate. So we have to look at what their cyber insurance is. And then we ask for if they've had a breach in the last 2 years. Department of Labor, I think, is 5 years or something. So it really aligned. When I saw that, I was like, oh, we've got it. We're ready. Because it is what we do. And what we look at, it covers everything that they're, really wanting to see. So
really it's fantastic to be see the market kind of catching up. These are things that I think we've known for a long time. And like, we just think about our relationships with our vendors and how they directly impact our own security programs. And I think that's why we built this offering. And so it's super cool now to see the Department of Labor get on board and be like, yeah, this is the thing we need to do. Right.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's going to lead to even more mainstream adoption.
Well, and we're seeing it affect non-regulated companies. We've actually had several that had heard about it, or, they are getting it from their clients that are required, and they're asking, hey, so what about this? How does this work? So yeah, I think it is starting to finally pick up. I was very happy that I put in the work. And it is frustrating at times when you're like, well, we thought this was a thing and nobody cares. Like, I put all this together, and then it comes later out of the blue, and you're like, oh, phew, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah, we see that more than a few times. Like, we're often early adopters here, and it's like, this is important, and we get that. We just have to understand that it sometimes takes the world a little bit of time to realize that importance. Right?
Yeah. Well, and we also, had a global pandemic in the meantime. So did that delay things? If we hadn't, would that have been a closer?
Yep, for sure.
There's just so many variables that you don't know about. But yeah,
for sure.
Cool to see people taking it seriously, not just checking the box.
Yep, I agree, man. Yeah, I'm excited to help some folks there, and I appreciate all the hard work you've done to have this program prepped 3 years ago before it was even a requirement. Now we're ready to hit the ground rolling.
Just got lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess in other news too, so the holidays are coming up, man. I'm excited for Thanksgiving. How about you? Got any big plans for Thanksgiving this year?
I'm gonna get to go see some family for the first time in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be nice to 3 years. It'd be nice to
so
see people again and
head south to the Midwest, the southern Midwest, I would assume.
Yeah. It's warmer. We were joking.
I don't know if it is or not. It's still cold out there, man.
We were joking because it's going to be like highs in the low teens here later this week.
Yeah.
And we're joking that like our kids are going to be out running around in like a hoodie, and everyone else is going to be wearing like their winter parka. It's going to be, in the 40s. We're like, yeah, 40s warm.
Oh, the 40s are great. I love the 40s, man. It's like, I love anything above freezing for like outdoor activities. And even like if it's like the 20s, I'm okay with it as long as I layer up. But it's like when you get to those teens and single digits is when I'm like, this kind of hurts, man.
Yeah, let's stay inside.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How about you?
Headed to Eastern Kentucky, headed to the mountains, spend time with family. It'd be, again, kind of like you were saying, like our first Thanksgiving together in a couple years. And so looking forward to that. We didn't get to do Thanksgiving last year, but we did do Christmas together. But there's still some folks that's not there. And it seems like we're going to have the whole family together, do a big Thanksgiving dinner. It should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to getting to see some family I just haven't spent time with in a long time. So this will be good. And eating too much food. Got to ask, man, what's your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Personally, I smoke a turkey, and once I did it the first time, I can never eat non-smoked turkey. That I love the green bean casserole. I love the yams with the marshmallow. I mean, yes, I love all of it.
Yeah, I love it all.
I just go down the list of everything.
We talked about this on the Hacklebox last week, and it was funny. Kind of the same thing. We're like, well, I like this and this. We named 10 things. But I still go back to, like, my favorite thing is the dressing or the stuffing. Because we don't get it. It's not something I'm eating, like, most of the year. I will have, like, smoked turkey. I will have mashed potatoes and gravy. But that stuffing I usually only get on Thanksgiving, and I love like the heavy sage cornbread stuffing. Put some gravy on top of that.
What I started doing is put them in muffin, make it in the pan and put it in muffins and bake it.
Oh, nice!
Yeah, you get that nice crust for everybody. Gets their own crusty, delicious.
That's a fantastic idea. That's like a pro gamer move right there, man. I may have to.
I mean. I was saying, thinking to my wife's family, we kind of have a broccoli dish, casserole type of thing that, the only time we really ever have it is Thanksgiving. I look forward to it every year. Just one of those.
Yeah, we do that too. I got one for you. I think this is like probably nobody on here will know what I'm talking about. This is a Southern thing. It's called Ritz Cracker Salad. You ever heard of this?
No.
Yeah, it's a dessert too. And in the South, we always laugh like everything's a salad, right? And salad doesn't have to have greenery in it, like macaroni salad, pea salad,
Right.
ham salad, all that stuff. So it's called Ritz Cracker Salad, and it's kind of like a lemon pie. And instead of a crust, they take like crumbled Ritz crackers, and the Ritz crackers like go on the top layer of that lemon pie.
Yeah.
And then like a kind of like a homemade meringue that goes on top of those crackers. And so it's like a kind of a sweet, sour and salty, lemony dessert. It's totally probably a hillbilly thing because we were, poor and had like lemon pudding or something. I don't know. Made our own pie, but yeah, it's good.
And you went to go put the crust on and didn't have graham crackers.
Yeah, right. So let's just throw some Ritz crackers on there. Nobody will notice, and it turns out it was delicious. So my mom always makes that, and I eat way too much of it. Yeah. But yeah, so talking about like the holiday season, right? I think it's kind of one of the topics we want to get to today. Just for everybody's awareness, it's like incident season as well, and we're seeing that uptick for our IR team here at FRSecure. Oh my God, the guys are so busy. They have like 6 or 7 active cases today. There's cases coming in every day right now. I'm trying to work through those. And, the attackers, they know our schedules, which we can talk about that a lot more, know our habits, but it's a very profitable time of year for attackers. I'll say that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and now is the time when people aren't paying as much attention, especially after, a pandemic where nobody traveled really. Now everybody's like, oh, thank goodness I can go travel. There's a lot more travel plans. We just talked about ours, and so from an IT monitoring, do you have the staff to catch that stuff if you're monitoring it? Probably not as quickly. You've got people traveling that maybe they're clicking things on their phone or on a laptop. So yeah, it's definitely an active season for that, and
yeah. We always talk about like that distraction thing, right? Where we know typically during American holidays, our key staff is going to be distracted. I mean, they're going to have family gatherings, personal gatherings, and things like that, which means that likely going to be, like you hit the nail on the head, slower to respond, right? We talk about like the importance of the mean time to detect when building like security program, right? But that like mean time to respond is also important, and we see a definite and significant impact during the holidays.
Yeah. Well, and also patching, right? 0 day, a new exploit comes out, there's a patch. Well, you don't have your staff that would typically patch it. Maybe they're not there.
So that time window opens up a little bit more for our attackers. Yeah. They know it's a fruitful endeavor to target domestic companies during this time. And then also, like, we're seeing a lot of these right now, but social engineering campaigns, man. It is the most wonderful time of the year for social engineers because, just the way we operate as humans now, things are different than they were before. And, a lot of people are transmitting e-gift cards as gifts, right? And so there's a lot of social engineering built around like gift cards, package delivery, all those things we're going to be looking for and expecting at the time of holidays. And so people are more likely to fall victim to those attacks.
Yeah, definitely the uptick of your Amazon order has shipped and it's some high dollar value, or whatever. And you're like, wait, what? I didn't order a $500 whatever.
Yeah.
And you click the link and whoops, you just give them your credentials.
Yeah, the FedEx notifications, Amazon notifications, UPS, USPS, and gift cards galore. Those are the big ones right now.
So just be extra aware, right? Don't click links. Go ahead and log into your account without clicking the link and verify it.
Yeah, 100%. That's the best advice. Don't click anything. If it's expected, just like Brad said, or if it's not expected, just log in. Log into your account and get that same information that way rather than clicking that link.
And attackers have gotten scary good at it. Like, I mean, think about what the click rate is for, when we do pen testing, I mean,
Oh yeah.
50%.
Yeah, I don't know the number, like the stat, but especially spear. When we do spear phishing
Yeah.
campaigns, we have a very high success rate there. And yeah, it's like, the ability to clone and make these phishing emails look legitimate, even the websites you're going to look legitimate. Attackers are very skilled. They understand the way our minds work, and our brains even interpret information, right? So I'm going to talk later this week and trying to go through like one of my pieces explaining like domain masquerading to people and really like how our brains interpret information, right? Like, character swapping. There's a lot of opportunity there for swapping a 0 for an O, and our brain won't really notice that. The order of the letters to Microsoft, putting the T in front of the F, right? And doing those minute switches that our brains will naturally interpret what we know, right? We know it's Microsoft. So people look at that, you're going to read that as Microsoft unless you pay extra special attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's one of those brain teaser things. It's like, how many typos did you notice in this sentence? And like every word has a typo and you read the sentence fine. And
have you seen those two where they even omit characters? That's another technique, is character omission. But like we can give you a full sentence and every word has characters omitted, but we still can interpret and read that sentence, and we do without even thinking about it.
Yeah, so you got to be super aware. And just because you have, and we talk about this, don't think, oh, well, I've got multi-factor on my account. That's not a guarantee. Yeah, it's going to make it a lot more secure, but there are bypasses to that. So just, be aware and just, it's that situational awareness that you really have to be heightened this time of year.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. I would say for our listeners too, this is a good opportunity, to train the people around you and train your staff. You have your staff, maybe just an email saying, hey, this is the time of the year. We're seeing these things. Be hyper aware. Also your friends and family, though, tell your wife, tell your kids, tell your aunts, uncles, your grandmothers, especially, and just make sure that they're in the know and we can help everyone out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good time to just kind of remind everyone, especially if you're going to see everyone now, hey, by the way, just keep it. We're seeing a trend, and I don't know, I'm sure most of our listeners are the same way. The majority of family and friends are not in this industry. So when I say something, they're like, oh, all right, I'm going to listen.
They pay attention to it.
So,
and then they ask like, hey, you work on computers, right? Can you help me with this? No, I absolutely cannot. But I will tell you how to protect yourself during the holidays.
Yeah. No, I cannot set up your Echo Dot or whatever.
You do tech stuff, don't you? Come help me with this. Call the Geek Squad, bro. Call the Geek Squad.
Right. No. Yeah, I'll tell you what not to click on, but I can't help you on that.
Yeah, so everybody just be aware. And that kind of leads into like another thing I wanted to mention because, Brad was saying like, even if you have MFA, there are MFA bypasses and MFA defeats and things that we've talked about before. So it's not a silver bullet. But there were some pretty big vulnerabilities that popped in the last week. I think it warrants like maybe just hitting on really quickly. The two things I wanted to bring up real quick, and then I know Brad's got some stuff to share too. We'll talk about that. But I think last time we were on, I'm sure you guys have heard about it, but the Exchange proxy.shell, critical vulnerabilities. There were 2 CVEs related to that vulnerability. There wasn't a patch last time, but there was mitigating controls. And we did send out blast to everybody. So everybody who listens hopefully got those mitigating controls. So 2 things to note. Number 1, those mitigating controls were updated multiple times. And I think we mentioned that in the email. Keep an eye on this thread. It may update because it failed. Here's another control. That failed. There's another control. And so it took a few implementations to get it right. But now, as of last Tuesday, on Patch Tuesday, Microsoft did finally release patches for those vulnerabilities. So if you haven't applied those yet, I would say still apply those with your patch exception process for critical patches. Get those in place as soon as possible because, as we've seen with other mitigating controls, there's likelihood there can be workarounds for those. I think the patch is a good thing to apply ASAP. But another reminder on that patch too, and the mitigating controls is we don't recommend applying those without doing some hunting on that server to make sure your server wasn't already compromised. Typically here, what you're going to be looking for is, a shell, a backdoor, files that shouldn't be on that Exchange server that exist on that Exchange server. Then if you see those, probably have to assume that server was at least compromised to some point, and recommend doing a full review to understand what happened there, because there were attacks widespread in the wild. And so, get those patches applied, look at your server, make sure you're good.
When do you think they're going to pop those shells if they haven't already?
Well, yeah.
Coming up next week?
Yeah.
Over the holidays?
I think that we'll start seeing some attacks from this in the next week. I also think we're going to start in the next couple weeks, I would say. I also think there's still a lot of Log4j stuff hanging out there where people were compromised from Log4j. Don't realize that. We're probably going to see those attacks start to amp up as we finish this year and go into the new year. It's the same thing we saw for Proxy Shell originally that popped. We really didn't see those attacks start to amp up as much until this season into the following year.
Yep. Yeah. So just be aware. I like your point on that. Don't just patch. Look.
There were 4 other O days in Microsoft Patch Tuesday last week that were, I believe they were all critical. But one was a CNG key isolation, another in print spooler, another in scripting languages, and one is the Windows mark of the web security, which if nobody realizes what that is, when you download a file from the internet, your OS will actually tag that with a zone identifier. Zone identifier is 3. That essentially means that file was downloaded from the internet. And so the OS has built-in security controls. So if files are downloaded from the internet, there's an extra layer of security on those before execution. So it's like, hey, you got this from the internet. Are you sure you want to run that, right? Well, there's an exploit path here now so that they can bypass that security control. And so essentially, like, think of a beacon, right? That beacon gets downloaded. They've exploited to bypass that security control, can run the beacon without any security intervention from the OS. So it just makes it easier for our malicious attackers to run malware on your system. Apply that patch across the enterprise ASAP.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, totally crazy, man. I think you had a couple as well.
Yeah, just a couple of quick ones. One, just more of an FYI. Zendesk had a API exploit. That was a SQL injection bug that could have allowed, conversation, email address, ticket, a lot of different things exposed via the Zendesk Explorer reporting service. They did patch it, but again, it's vendor risk management, web app testing. Are they doing testing? They patched it fairly quickly, but according to the article, companies face somewhere between $12 to $23 billion in losses in 2022 from compromises linked to web APIs. So just, this is real out there. This is another good reminder that, hey, either a SaaS solution, whatever, make sure that they're doing testing. If you can do testing against it, make sure you're doing regular testing of web APIs. And the other one I had was talked about with MFA, cookies for MFA bypass gain traction. So Lapsus needed gaining access to compromises for some breaches. What they've done is taken not just passwords, but session tokens or cookies. And as soon as they have that, they don't have to authenticate. It's all in that cookie. It's in that session token. So there's a presentation, and we'll, of course, get this linked and everything. But Black Hat Middle East Asia next week, CyberArk is going to demonstrate how the attackers can steal session cookies and then use them to gain access to business and cloud services.
Yeah, we've seen this. I think this is going to be a more prevalent attack as we move forward and people continue to implement MFA correctly. But this relates to social engineering as well, kind of back what we were talking about before. But typically there's going to be an application in the middle attack, right? So there's a phishing domain or a malicious domain that's stood up, looks just like what you're trying to log into. You pass your creds through there. Those creds are passed to the legitimate source. You pass your MFA token in. Those MFA tokens are passed to the legitimate source. And guess what? The cookie is established with the server in the middle, right? So the attacker now owns that authentication token, and they can replay that and reuse that. And then what typically happens in that attack is the user doesn't even know this happened. So the attacker now has authentication, right? And then they just pass the user on through to the legitimate site after they've stolen that authentication. token, and the actual victim at that point, it just looks like, oh, my login didn't work. I need to try that again. So they try it again. They log in. Yep. They're unsuspecting that there was ever any sort of cookie theft or token theft there.
Yeah, and the other technique that they mention is Mfa bombing, where they just repeatedly try this and hope for fatigue or users not paying attention, that they constantly are getting requests for MFA authentication. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, well, my phone must not have updated or something, right? So if you're getting MFA pop-ups and you're not actively logging in, that's probably why. It's just trying to get your.
And this is something we talk about too, worth mentioning again. That's why the push to approve notifications for MFA are not very effective. They're easily abused. Mm-hmm. I know our red team has success with that technique as well. And so, a lot of folks, especially if you can pattern the times people are logging in. Brad starts work around 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to use these stolen creds and push and approve to his device about the same time he's logging in. And a lot of people will just dismiss that, assume it's there. Like you said, something's out of sync. It's totally normal. They approve that. And then the attackers successfully logged in, bypassing MFA.
Yeah, joke's on you. You think I started at
8 p.m. That's what I was talking about, right?
Yeah, right. I get logins at 8 a.m. I'm like, what? I haven't gotten out of bed.
Yeah, good stuff, man. The other one I wanted to touch on really quick here was just for everybody out there, in case they're using these technologies, Citrix Gateway. There was an authentication bypass bug that came out recently. It was a critical vulnerability, 9.8 out of 10. And specifically, it's targeting the Citrix Gateway SSL VPN solution. And so there is a patch out for that now. Because essentially this gives an attacker the ability to bypass authentication into your VPN. And that's a bad thing. Right? So we should probably fix that. I know that there's a lot of folks who use that Citrix Gateway SSL VPN solution as well. Haven't seen a public exploit for that, but I do believe the exploit likely exists right now. It just hasn't been disclosed publicly, so I would say get on that. And then the other big one kind of related is VMware Workspace 1, which is used by a lot of MSPs, right, for remote management and remote troubleshooting sessions for devices. There were 4 critical CVEs that came out recently for that product. And again, it was an authentication bypass bug, so people could authenticate to devices running that software without the need of credentials or anything. So I would say, make sure you patch that. Also, if you're unsure, check your environment. And I only mention this because I see a lot of times where people may change from one MSP to another, and not saying anything bad about MSPs, but sometimes there are residual tools that are left behind and their previous clients aren't even aware those tools are in their environment, and they still would possess the ability to connect into that environment. So back to application whitelisting, right? Make sure you know what's in your environment. Go have a check. Make sure you don't have that. If it's not expected to be there, get rid of it. If you're using it, you know you're using it, I'd get on those patches today if you haven't already.
Yeah. Great advice.
Cool, man. Jam-packed full of information in a short period of time today, but I think this is a good episode. Let's do some shout-outs, dude. Who you got?
I'm going to shout out to the Jennifer and John on the sales team for owning and taking this Department of Labor, the VRM stuff, and really running with it, putting together their own stuff, and realizing that it's important. They've done a great job.
They have done a fantastic job there, for sure. So thanks. I'm going to give a big shout out to my mom, man. As Thanksgiving's coming up, going back to that, and she's excited, so excited to have everybody there for the holiday. And I was just talking to her, and hey, what do you want me to bring? What can we cook and all that? She's like, I don't want anybody to bring anything. I want to cook the dinner for everybody. I'm going to start a few days early. I just want to do this for everybody. And I want to help, but also I get that she really loves this, and I love her for everything, but that's awesome. That's a cool thing. So thanks, Mom. I'm looking forward to eating all your delicious Thanksgiving treats in a couple of weeks or week and a half. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We will be back soon. Hope everybody has a wonderful holiday if we don't talk before then. And Yeah. See ya. Thanks.